CAMWS does not always learn of the deaths of its members immediately. Sometimes the sad news comes as much as a decade late. This will be a larger necrology than usual to allow us to catch up on those members whose loss has only reached us this year. Of the 16 members we mourn, 10 of them have passed away since our last meeting. Nevertheless, we can take heart in their longevity. 7 of the 16 were in their late 80s, 4 were in their 90s. We'll consider them in chronological order. William D. Fairchild, Jr. received his Ph.D. from Northwestern University in 1951. During his first job at Juniata College in Huntington, Pennsylvania, he prepared the indices for the 1955 and 1956 volumes of C.J. He was a professor of Romance and Classical Languages at Michigan State from 1964 to 1987, during which time he was a member-at-large of the Executive Committee and Michigan Vice President. He died in Fremont, California on January 28, 2004, at the age of 81. Henry Charles Boren died in Pittsburgh, North Carolina on October 17, 2013, at the age of 92. He was professor of ancient history at the University of North Carolina from 1960 to 1991, where he also served as secretary of the faculty for 15 years. After his early career as a journalist was cut short by World War II, he led the 1st Platoon to enter Germany under General George S. Patton's Third Army. Desperately wounded in 1944, he received a Bronze Star for his courage under fire. After graduating from Southwest Missouri State, now Missouri State, he received his doctorate from the University of Illinois in 1952. He taught at his alma mater, then the University of Nebraska and Southern Illinois, before coming to Chapel Hill. Among his books are The Roman Republic, 1965, The Gracchi, 1968, and Roman Society, 1977. James Alfred Michael Hitt died in Austin, Texas, on May 11, 2016, at the age of 88. He completed his education after service in World War II, during which he rose to the rank of Staff Sergeant. Returning to his native Texas, he graduated from Southern Methodist University and received his doctorate from Princeton in 1954. He taught popular classes as an associate professor at the University of Texas in Austin. Jean Rosen Ravid of Northwestern University died on September 17, 2017, at the age of 88. She was the senior lecturer and senior college advisor for over 35 years. Karl Meltzer Dresner Rosen studied at Boston Latin School before entering Harvard, where he graduated Phi Beta Kappa. He received a Ph.D. from Yale in 1960 and taught at Bates College and Rutgers before becoming professor of classics and linguistics at the University of Kansas. He died on July 19, 2018, in Lawrence, Kansas, at the age of 87. William Charles Kurth died in Decorah, Iowa, on December 12, 2018, at the age of 86. He received his doctorate from the University of North Carolina in 1965 with a dissertation on Alice Gellius. He was professor of classics at Luther College for 31 years. Damaris Moore Corrigan graduated summa cum laude from Newcomb College in New Orleans in 1983, then received honors in Latin from St. Andrews University, a J.D. degree from Tulane School of Law, and turned to classics for a Ph.D. from the University of Texas. She taught classics, Roman law, and ancient military history at the University of Georgia, where she wrote Riders on High, the Cavalry of Alexander the Great, and a number of journal articles. After a 25-year battle with pulmonary arterial hypertension, she died on May 28, 2019, at the age of 58. Father Mark Owen Lee was a beloved figure at the University of Toronto, to which he devoted nearly 30 years of his life. Guided by his study of the analytical psychology of Carl Jung, he patiently studied the works of his beloved Virgil, in books like Fathers and Sons in Virgil's Aeneid, 1979, Death and Rebirth in Virgil's Arcadia, 1989, and Virgil as Orpheus, a study of the Georgics, 1996. Father Lee is, however, best remembered by the sophisticated public as a longtime panelist on the Texaco Opera Quiz, where he answered questions with remarkable alacrity. He was often the first to raise his hand to answer, and with a seemingly fathomless depth of knowledge about opera. He died on January 25, 2019, in Scarborough, Ontario, at the age of 89. Mark Percy Owen Morford was born in Sri Lanka, the son of a tea merchant. He received his secondary education in England at Winchester College and earned a BA and MA from Oxford. He received his PhD from the University of London. He began his teaching career at preparatory schools in Kent, England, then in Baltimore, then back to England's Lancing College, before moving into CAMWS territory, where he was a loyal member for 3 decades and president in 1981-2. He settled in first at Ohio State, where he taught from 1964 to 1984 and chaired the department from 1968 to 1980. He then moved to the University of Virginia from 1984 to 1998. His final academic position was as Kennedy Professor of Classics at Smith College. He is best remembered for his widely used textbook on classical mythology with Robert Lenardon and Michael Sham, and also for his studies of Juvenal, Perseus, and Justus Lipsius. Mark Morford died on October 14, 2019, in Amherst, Mass., at the age of 90. Leslie Muller Cahoon died November 10, 2019. She taught at Gettysburg College for 25 years after receiving her doctorate from Berkeley in 1981 with a dissertation on Ovid and the Praecepta Amoris. Most of her subsequent publications dealt with Ovid. One student recalled, "She remembers great works written by her students years before. She has an irreverent sense of humor accompanied by a boisterous laugh, and she cares deeply about her students' whole being." Edward Courtney, known as Ted, was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and he became simply one of the finest classical philologists in the world of his day. A lavishly awarded student at Trinity College, Dublin, he was lecturer at Christ Church, Oxford, then rose to full professor at King's College, London, before moving to Stanford as Ely Professor of Classics, and then to Charlottesville, where in 1993 he became the first in a distinguished line of Gildersleeve professors. He was the author of 11 books, mostly critical editions and commentaries on Latin poets of the Silver Age, and numerous articles, totaling approximately 130 publications in all. He died in Charlottesville on November 24, 2019, at the age of 87. Dear Keeley Lake graduated from the University of South Dakota in 1994 and received her PhD in classics from the University of Iowa in 2001. In the next year, she was a guest professor at Gettysburg College and then taught Greek and Latin at the Wayland Academy in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin from 2002 to 2018, when she moved back home to Hot Springs, South Dakota, to care for her ailing father. She taught online courses, was a table reader for AP Latin exams, and performed heroic work for the Virgilian Society at CAMWS. She died far too young, suddenly on January 15, 2020, at the age of 48. Clarence Mackenzie Lewis, known as Mac, graduated from the University of Montana in 1998 and received a PhD in classical archaeology from Florida State University in 2013. He taught at Concordia College, the University of Wyoming, and beginning in 2018, the University of Waterloo. From 2012, he was the director of the Villa del Virginio archaeological project near Florence. In 2019, he won a CAMWS faculty undergraduate collaborative research grant for digitizing data from the excavations in Montelupo Fiorentino. Following Mac's sudden death on March 8, 2020, the CAMWS Executive Committee voted to name one of the CAMWS Excavation and Field School Awards in his memory. Our third necrology of a member long associated with the University of Virginia, this is surely a record, though not a desired one, is Marvin Leonard Kolker, born in Pittsburgh. After receiving his B.A. summa cum laude from the University of Pittsburgh in 1948, he received his doctorate from Harvard only 3 years later. in 1951. After 2 fellowships abroad, he settled in at the University of Virginia, where he taught for over 40 years, specializing in manuscripts of the 12th and 13th centuries. He was a Guggenheim Fellow who was awarded an honorary doctorate from Trinity College, Dublin. He died at the age of 93 on April 8, 2020. Mark Golden died on April 9, 2020. He taught at the University of Winnipeg for over 30 years. The Toronto Globe and Mail described him as, quote, Canada's foremost classic scholar, unquote, for his work on the social history of ancient Greece, and in many ways he shaped the direction of his specialty. His book, Children and Childhood in Classical Athens, is now in its 2nd edition. He has 6 other books or edited volumes to his credit, not to mention some 48 journal articles and book chapters. A generous and popular professor who got the best out of his students, he was awarded the University of Winnipeg's Erica and Arnold Rogers Award for Excellence in Research and Scholarship. Francis Philip Rasmus, known as Frank, was a native of Chicago who taught students Greek, Latin, and history at his alma mater, St. Ignatius College Preparatory, on the Near West Side, for over 50 years. He returned to St. Ignatius after receiving his M.A. from Loyola University of Chicago, and for the next half-century he served as college counselor, language department chair, assistant principal, and the first lay principal in the school's history. He endowed a scholarship fund and was the Ferrand Baker Illinois Teacher of the Year in 1996. Following his retirement, he continued to tutor and mentor students. He died on April 16, 2020, at the age of 92.